Hey people, when I'm trying to figure out how to read this, there is no Hebrew dictionary worth a damn. They can't write one because they give these words any meaning anytime. They switch them up. There is no Hebrews, so-called Hebrews, that know how to read this. What I do is I find old English dictionaries. But first I'll check on the word, like this, why, a nag. And I'll click here first to see the first time the word comes up, and it's not always the same word. It's similar, and sometimes it's nowhere near the word. This is a T-N-O-U. Nowhere near. There is no nag in it. But you see, they say the base of this word is just an N-G-O. And they say it means to touch, to reach, to strike, a plague. And I'm sure it comes up many more times, and they put it under a different number, put it in a different category, and give it different meanings, like every word in the Bible. But then the biggest help, I click on the word here, and I'll check. It just comes up 2 times like this, and I'll check and see where this word comes up the most. Many times comes up spelled just 1 or 2 times, and they put it all in the category. The magi, the magicians, or the shield to give the magi. But I'll check and see where it comes up the most, and I'll study that. And so when I come up to this nag, I seen that it came up most as the naga 20 times. It's just the E, the, and naga, which they said was strike or touches, the touch. And then I'll just search for patterns. I'll read the words in front of it, and sometimes I read the words in front of it and after it. But I noticed something on this nag. This way it comes up the most, the nag. And it's different here because it's not followed by the I, but it is followed by the B. And the nag obeys. And when I went on down, I noticed that 20 times it comes up, and it's always followed a word that starts with a B. And it's many different words, but every time, for 20 times, this nag is going to come up starting with a word starting with B after it. Every time in here, 20 times. It doesn't miss. Always the next word starts with a B. Sometimes it's just a B-E. And the nag of B. And the nag of scab. That lets me know this is a O-V. Of. The nag of scab. And every time this word comes up, it always is followed by a word starting with a B. And that kind of lets me know that this O is reading more with the next word, and this is just the NG, the nag. But it never fails. Every time this word cannot come up without a B directly following it. The nag of in earth, the nag in come. There's no other way to learn this. That's why I do it. I find a word, and sometimes I go to when I first started doing this, I would go to every one of these and I would read every line. And sometimes I would have to go back and read every paragraph where the word come up to figure out what these words. I started knowing nothing, and then I started nailing down a couple words. And the more words I got, the easier it got. And the more I figured out that this is just the ancient English language. And I thought I'd hit on that before I backtracked, because what even brought me here, that's what I was doing. I was looking for a word, and the first time it come up was in Genesis 9:13, and it shall be, was white, W-H-I-T-E, or W-E-I-T-E. The H and the E, is interchangeable. And this is a word that comes up like this 87 times. And not necessarily. Sometimes it'll be spelled different and they'll give it the same thing because they're not even looking at the letters. They look at the vowel points. And that's just plain stupid because they'll tell you that this is the way it was written first. Look at the 10 Commandments. You won't see no vowel points. You'll see this old Phoenician writing. Not Hebrew script. This isn't Hebrew. This is Phoenician. And it means phonic. It means the letters are pictures, and the pictures have meaning. And they select the vowel points when they want. They don't even read them. And most of the time, you'll see the vowel points are referring to the next vowel after it, and they'll ignore that vowel. They're actually reading the vowel points and not reading the vowel. And they'll try to tell you there is no vowels, but that's the people who don't know how to read it tell you that. But you see, the first time this white comes up, it's in set in a cloud, white, a sign of the covenant, and become the bow of the cloud, the white, the fist, Bonnie, Bonn, Bonnie. And who your money, white shall my covenant your flesh. And white, the Brit, B-R-I-T, the Brit of, the Britty by. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, I showed you in that old dictionary that they kind of erased, they removed it, but British used to be the name of the language, and English was the people. And that was just a little over 200 years ago, and they kind of changed the meaning. They twisted those around, so people believe now that English is a language and British is the people. But that's the covenant. It's in writ, B-R-I-T, in writ, in writing, in the writ of. And kings of peoples will come from her, and kings of peoples white from her, and white a great cry, white. And so I haven't even read all the way down this. Like I said, when I found the first time it come up was over there in the Noah's Ark story. And so I went back to read that again, being that I learned a couple more tricks about how they twist the letters. But if you just get one word like this, and it's plain as day, the white, and go ahead and read down it, and read their interpretation, which is always wrong, but it'll give you an idea. This is probably where the Ku Klux Klan come from. Light caps. They should have hats, like the white, like the priesthood. And they will not die, white statue perpetual. And their father may minister, white will qualify. They couldn't get a meaning on there. They didn't want to put become on there. And so you see all those black statues, all those black stone statues, and that's probably why, because the writings, the ancient writings, the first writings were red, and then the new language, the writings were in black when you're looking at the Egyptian writing. But you have to have another color to put white writings on so you could see them. And that's why the black statues, because the writings will become, and it will be forgiven white, the priest. And so I wasn't going anywhere with this. I was just trying to clear out a bunch of open tabs and get back to where I was reading before I got to this. But this is what made me think that it was probably at a time when they were trying to take over Egypt, and white statue permanent, and white likewise a statue, and what that says is white and backwards, and to that'll, LKM will come, to that'll come, a white to that'll come, and shall have likewise statue. And it can't become if it was already white. You have to make a black statue to become white. And when I see them give the white, the meaning become most of the time, it makes me think, the people say that, when the Hebrews left, they were black. When they came back, they were white. And it plainly says it in Samuel 14:24, and the man of Israel, is the way they interpret this, and the man of Israel was niggas in the day, Bayam. But when I read this, I read this as a T-E or a D-E, and theys, and then backwards and forwards, and the L before the A becomes the N, and Narcissus rule, And so Narcissus, the rule of Narcissus was caused to stare in the mirror at his reflection the rest of his life. He was cursed to look in the mirror. And so that would be, they's Narcissus rule, niggas buy 'em hide. The double E is H-I, and then the Vav A reads as a T-E or a D-E, the hide. And Wills, the I-A reads as a W. And Will's own, the L followed by the A reads as an N. And Will's own at move 'em, O-E is a O-V. M-O-V-O-M, move 'em. And Will's own at move 'em, no more are where. And haze, to give a beating. And no more are where haze. And assure and backwards, like, and then, A, and then the I-A reads as evolve. And like of call to come. At in rover in in rove, that's where they're getting this, and eats any food until you're roving is what they say is a famine. And in rove or in, and when committum avi, avi, this flying, the birds, and when committum avi, and when autumn call move 'em will come. And so the ancient people, not just the hunter-gatherers, but even the farmers, they moved with the seasons. And when come a time, AV, will autumn call, move 'em will come. Come autumn, it's time to move, looking for food. And so I notice many of my channels I sub to, they're complaining about this big black woman statue. Even the black Trumpers have a problem with this statue and call it ridiculous. And many of the black channels, they're not liking it either. Watch the Hodge twins, they had something negative to say about it too. And all these so-called Jews are hating it, and that's because they don't understand the language. But what happens to statues? In the city, the pigeons shit all over them, and they become white. And myself, I kind of like it. I don't think she's fat. I think she looks healthy. I think she looks like a strong woman. I'd hire her. She'd come to work with me. If you got big old long fingernails and it looks like you get them done every week, that's a no-go for me. I can't use you. But this woman here, she looks like she's ready for it. She's ready to go to work. But as I scan through this, I just put black statue up in here. And definitely the black people have a lot more to say about it than the white people. And this for many different reasons. I'll talk about it another time. But, this looks like the type of woman that ain't going to bend over for P. Diddy. She's not going to bow down to some Zionist rule. So all in all, I kind of like the statue. If New York wants to get rid of it, they can come put it in my yard. I'll keep the pigeons off of it. I'm sure my neighbor will hate it. He prides himself in having the world's biggest and tallest rebel flag flying. But I'm probably fixing to shoot all these goats and pigs and roosters if you don't keep them out of my garden. I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.